Mike Ashley is gone, and Newcastle United's new ownership group has officially taken control of the club after their £300 million takeover bid was accepted. I'm Adrian, and in this video we'll go over the first attempt from the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund's takeover bid and why it was denied that first time, some of the controversies associated with the people behind this takeover, why it was approved this time around, and at the very end, I'll share a bit of my opinion on this. Again, I'll keep my opinion as a completely separate category to that of the reporting of the facts, just to make it easier for you to skip that section entirely if you so wish. So 18 months ago, when it had previously seemed as though Newcastle would be taken over by the Saudi Arabian Private Investment Fund, or PIF, as I'll call it in this video, which is the sovereign or royal wealth fund of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and is headed by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed Bin Salman. Back in May of 2020, the Premier League blocked the consortium's initial takeover due to the issue of piracy in Saudi Arabia, given that there are set-top boxes called Be-Out-Q that have pirated material from beIN Sports, Be-Out, of course, being a play on words for beIN. Here's an excerpt from an article by Matt Slater of The Athletic from July of 2020. A PIF-led deal to buy Newcastle United could never pass the owners and directors tests without the Saudi government really shutting down Be-Out-Q, lifting its temporary ban on beIN Sport, compensating beIN for 3 years of damages, and promising the Premier League and every other leading sports competition in the world that it would never steal their content again. On top of that, the Premier League felt some pressure from Amnesty International and other human rights groups, political commentators, and many more who begged them to look at human rights violations from the prospective owners and point to how Saudi Arabia are ranked 170th in the world as far as press freedom goes, how they execute more citizens than any other country, of which they set a record of 184 executions in 2019. In 2020, they announced that they would ban executions when it came to children. As for the human rights accusations lobbied toward the Crown Prince, there's the war in Yemen that killed thousands, tens of thousands of civilians, arresting and later jailing protesters that were calling for Saudi women to be allowed to drive, and the Crown Prince's suspected role in the assassination of a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, who was critical of the Crown Prince in his news columns. Khashoggi was killed and dismembered at the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul, and the Saudi government has denied that the Crown Prince had any involvement in the matter. So the Premier League has an owner and directors test, basically a list of boxes that must be ticked in order for the league to approve a takeover bid, of which the intellectual property of the Premier League being pirated caused a major stumbling block for the initial bid, and the alleged lack thereof of separation between the Saudi state and the Public Investment Fund caused further issues with the takeover from 2020. The Premier League needed further assurances that there was separation. They offered arbitration to the prospective takeover consortium, but the consortium pulled out before there was arbitration. The lawyer representing the Premier League during this time, Adam Lewis QC, said, quote, "If the arbitration decides that Saudi Arabia is not a director, then the transaction can and will go ahead." But, like I said, the consortium ended up pulling out. Ultimately, the original attempted takeover was blocked, and they pulled out, as I just said. So why was it approved this time, and who is involved? First off, Amanda Staveley has been at the forefront alongside her husband and their firm PCP Capital Partners. Then there are local Newcastle billionaire brothers David and Reuben Simon, and finally the aforementioned PIF. Staveley and her firm has a 10% stake, the Simon brothers have another 10%, and the landslide majority owners are PIF with an 80% stake. What caused the Premier League to accept this bid, this £300 million bid this time? I mean, we obviously don't have access to the meetings that go on behind closed doors, but using their statement from today as a basis, well, I'll read that to you so you can hear what they had to say about the matter. It reads, "The legal disputes concerned which entities would own and or have the ability to control the club following the takeover. All parties have agreed the settlement is necessary to end the long uncertainty for fans over the club's ownership. The Premier League has now received legally binding assurances that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will not control Newcastle United Football Club." What those legally binding assurances would be, I'm not so sure, as they were purposefully vague about this. As for Amanda Staveley, who has become the face of this takeover, she too was asked about it, and she said, quote, The consortium's lead partner is PIF. It's an autonomous, commercially driven investment fund. It's a great partner for Newcastle. I'm very honored to work with them. They've been incredibly patient and fabulous partners to PCP. This has caused some confusion as the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed Bin Salman, was behind the public investing fund and was apparently what was causing issues with the previous bid. But the Premier League has said that they have legally binding assurances, and the owners and directors test, as mentioned before, was passed, with the Premier League saying that they had assurances that the Saudi state won't have a director's seat. Amanda Staveley will have a seat as a board member at Newcastle United, and the new non-executive chairman of the club will be Yasir Al Rumayyan, the governor of Saudi Arabia's public investor fund. As far as the fans go, I think the overriding feeling is that of relief in that they have anyone other than Mike Ashley at the helm now, and that they will finally have an owner with ambition. That comes up a lot. That's the main thing that you keep on hearing, an owner with ambition, and that of course goes hand in hand with an owner with a ton of money. I can sympathize with the supporters in that the 14 years that Ashley has been in charge will have ground them down horribly, drops to the championship, very little done to ensure that Newcastle will be successful, to set them up for success really, a neglected academy and scouting system, all things that simply do not befit a club of Newcastle's stature, a club with Newcastle's history and with such a massive fan base. The Newcastle supporters not only partied outside of the stadium, but the Newcastle Supporters Trust released a statement saying that 96.7% of the fans who voted were in favor of the takeover, and no doubt they are looking to Manchester City and PSG, and their mouths are watering at the prospect of being able to sign whomever they want, so long as they fall within the economic controls from UEFA and the Premier League, of course, and potentially win some silverware. I think there's a lot of optimism in that the new owners have stated they want to improve the club's academy, the training center, the surrounding area, invest in the squad. It's a full investment in every aspect, just as City's owners did in the past, not just signing whoever they like as if they're playing FIFA, but investing in the infrastructure of the club and the surrounding community. And now for a bit of opinion, alert, and I keep this separate from the reporting I was doing previously in the video, of course. But I had a ton of people asking me for my opinion on it, so I'll share it. So saying that Newcastle's supporters have their club back, I don't know about that. This wasn't a takeover from a born and bred Newcastle supporter. They didn't buy the club out of love for Newcastle United, essentially. They opted for Newcastle because Mike Ashley has been open to selling the club for a while now, on his terms, mind you. And Newcastle has a massive fan base in the north, a good stadium, history, and a ton of potential. Have your club back? Maybe, but it would depend on your definition of having your club back. If it's simply that you have a rich owner that will invest, then yes, you do indeed have that, on top of Mike Ashley not being there. That's a major part of it, I guess. There seem to be some, keyword being some here, hypocritical supporters out there as well. Again, some, not all. I'll make that clear. There were those that condemned the Super League in April because it took football away from the fans and it put it into the hands of the elite, how they don't identify with the modern football, with all of its, nation state funded teams, oligarchs, oil money. Now they're celebrating this takeover saying that they got their club back. It doesn't add up. It gives your club a chance to be competitive again. It will provide more investment into the club. But it's another club that has owners with some, shall we say, controversial associations that bought the club as a business, not for the love of the club. So you can't claim to care about the state of football and the owners involved while simultaneously celebrating this. That's something that should be made clear, by the way. They're another one of many clubs like this. Newcastle United isn't the first club to have an owner or ownership group with skeletons in their closet, major skeletons. Abramovich is no saint. Just look to who he's been funding in the past. Nor are some of the others involved in the league and in European football in general. However, something that has rubbed me the wrong way is people saying that the relief of losing Ashley overrides the documented atrocities of a new owner. That the good work the new owners could potentially do for the community makes up for their past. That's where the point of contention lies, and that's where some supporters will feel deeply conflicted about this takeover. Happy Ashley's gone, happy to have investment and likely more success, but conflicted about the allegations and the documented actions of the people associated with the takeover. Try as you might to say that the things that they've done back in Saudi Arabia is separate from what they're doing in Newcastle, they're linked. Would I personally feel good about this takeover? No. Can I understand the relief that Ashley is gone? Yes. But do I like the idea of these controversies being associated with my club? No. Do I think that the, what about and pointing to other owners is a valid argument? No. Whataboutism is the weakest argument out there. There's so much of it and it's so frustrating. And just to add some clarity here, I understand the relief of getting rid of Ashley, and I can understand how, as a fan, you would be excited about how your team has just won the lottery, essentially. But for me, the people behind this lottery could never outweigh that excitement. While I would try to rationalize that, hey, the people who are actually in contact with the club, who are actually dealing with the club on a day-to-day basis from that delegation, are not the ones who are murdering or publicly executing people and dismembering them, killing civilians, etc. They're still linked, and that wouldn't really sit well with me. But anyways, guys, that's it for this video. It will be interesting to see how things pan out and whether they can do enough in January to ensure they will stay in the Premier League. My name's Adrian, this is Rabona TV, and we'll catch you later. Take care.